Hey everybody, and welcome to the Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is a designer, a speaker, a teacher. She's named Meg Lewis, and she is my cousin. We're going to talk with her about what it's like to play for a living. You can find Meg at meglewis.com. The show is brought to you by Playful Humans. If you need a little more fun, flow, fulfillment in your life, you need to rediscover the power of play. That's what we're here for. Go to playfulhumans.com. There's also a playful personality quiz, which is fun to find out what type of play that you enjoy. Go to playfulhumans.com/quiz. All right, we're going to get started. Here we go. All right, Meg, we like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by farts. They smell bad, taste bad, but they're fun to hear and feel. Farts. Try them today. The joke of the week is a grasshopper walks into the bar and the bartender says, "Hey, we have a drink named after you." And he says, "You have a drink named Steve?" There you go. Joke of the week. Try that one with your friends and family as well. Now, Meg, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a little bit about playing for a living. You certainly do it. What does that mean to you, and how did you get there?
Wow. Hi.
That was a lot of the intro, yeah.
Oh, I'm having a great time. Playing for a living. I think that this is my calling in life, but also, I would say maybe a clinical issue. That I have, because I'm just addicted to having fun. I truly will not do anything if it's not fun, which is a problem sometimes. Yeah. But most of the time it's the best because I have found a way to have fun all the time and to have people pay me to have fun, which I think is just absolutely fantastic.
So off the top, I want to mention a couple of things. One is they really need to check out your stuff. So they can go to meglewis.com, but they could find you. You have a sit there and do nothing comedy mindfulness podcast on YouTube. You've hosted lots of podcasts. You do funny videos, the dance videos on social media. You do public speaking. I've seen you drink like a bottle of wine and like shove marshmallows in your mouth while trying to teach people about personal branding. Lots of goofy things. We're not talking about your average level of, oh, Meg's kind of funny or quirky or she puts a bow in her hair. You go for it, my friend. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I've realized that, when I was a kid, which because you knew me, I wanted to be a comedy actor when I was a kid. So I spent a lot of time, my summers going to like acting camps, comedy camps, and learning, which thank goodness for, I learned the foundations of improvisational thinking when I was a kid. So when my brain was still developing, I was taking improv classes, which I think has been the best possible skill for myself to learn. And so now I've realized that in creating a career for myself that's kind of a mix of all the things I'm interested in, comedy and the foundations of just humor has been such an important part of who I am as a person and also what's important and fulfilling to me. So within that, I like to bring that aspect into everything that I do and every other skill and thing that I can offer the world. So whether it's podcasts or designing, brands for clients or teaching classes on career fulfillment, anything, I bring comedy and humor into it. And I do it because it's the most fulfilling to me, but it's also a way that I can teach this information to other people that's unique to me.
That was the second thing that I was thinking right off the top was we were raised on our mother's sides of the family in a very creative environment. One of our parents coined the term creative nerdery because we would go back in the back, we'd find some toys and come out and put on a show for people. And we really just were creative and fun, and there was no real restrictions. They never said like, stop doing that, you're being annoying, or people aren't going to like you if you're silly like that. It was really encouraged. But I don't feel like that's true for everyone. And really, it wasn't even true at all on my father's side of the family. They were all very strict business people, driven kind of stuff. So What's your advice for people that maybe didn't grow up or have any experience to just being able to be goofy?
It's really hard as an adult to allow yourself to have just fun and play without a specific outcome. I don't even, a lot of times don't allow myself to do that because I'm constantly thinking about making a living and trying to get paid. So
Yeah.
I even find myself very often, if I'm, learning a new skill, like sculpting or ceramics, for example, in my head already, I'm like, okay, well, I'm making this for a specific outcome. I'm trying to make this vase to see if then I can create a business out of this. And then it becomes less fun and less playful and less of a creative exercise where I'm discovering and exploring myself. And as kids, a lot of times we're often doing that, where we're just playing. There's no outcome we have in mind. We're just biding the time, having fun, exploring, being creative. And as adults, we don't ever get that opportunity anymore. So we have to make those opportunities for ourselves. So I think whether you categorize yourself as a creative individual or not, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to have time for creative play in order to get out of your own head. It's kind of like a meditative experience because you're not in your own head, trying to think of the outcome the whole time. You're just playing with something and being creative for the sake of going through the experience, and it doesn't matter what it looks like at the end. So that's what I encourage to every person, myself included, no matter how much fun you have in a given day or no matter how often you get to be creative, is to just find snippets of time, 15 minutes, an hour here and there, to just be creative. You can color, you can paint something, just do something that's using your creative brain without having a specific outcome in mind.
I love that. And you said something that I think struck me there, which is a lot of people think creative people don't have the doubts that the other people do. Or we're both public speakers and they go, oh, well, you must not get nervous because you enjoy being on stage in front of thousands of people. And I think the opposite is true. We're nervous, we just do it anyway, right? Or we have that
Yeah.
imposter syndrome that what if I make something or I make a joke and nobody laughs? And we think the same thing, but then we just do it anyway, right?
Exactly. That's a really good point. That's something that I've learned throughout my career, is that there is fear associated with all of this. It's terrifying, especially if you are in a point where you have to be vulnerable in some sort of way. Public speaking is a great example of that, where you're putting yourself out there. You're going out on a limb, doing something that maybe other people aren't doing. And in your head, that's terrifying. And I think for a lot of people, this is being self-employed involves this feeling all the time.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, the fear gets in the way and prevents them from acting, because it's too scary. You have in your head this perceived outcome of what you think will happen whenever you do the thing, of like, this outcome's people will boo me, or, like nobody will laugh. It's going to be terrible. And once you start to, just the first time, push past the fear and do it anyway, you learn that the worst possible perceived outcome almost never happens. And eventually, over time of pushing past the fear and doing it anyway, you start to retrain your brain that it's okay. Whenever you push past the fear and do it anyway, normally a positive outcome happens. And every so often, when the negative outcome does happen, which is rare, you find that you got through it and it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. I have surprisingly been booed 3 times on stage.
Well,
Have
I
you
tell
been
the
booed?
story all the time. I've been fired. I haven't really been booed a little bit from drunk people and stuff, but it wasn't that bad, but not like the whole crowd or anything. But I was just going to ask you that is there a time it makes you bulletproof though? Because once it happens, you're like, oh, well, that wasn't near as bad as I thought. And I get to do it again. And I already got paid. So it's like, hey, whatever, I don't care. Was there a time that you specifically remember that you think, oh, well, now I can do it. Like that was the Band-Aid I needed to rip off.
Exactly. Well, definitely with public speaking, because I naturally have pretty soft opinions. I'm not a very opinionated person. I don't have many hot takes. My only opinions are about opinions, honestly. Um, so whenever it came to public speaking, I thought, I wasn't afraid to public speak necessarily, but I was really self-conscious about what I could possibly speak about, what I had to offer to
Mm-hmm.
say to the world that nobody else was already saying. There are a lot of people just shouting their opinions into the void. What did I have to offer the world? And whenever I said that out loud, I was standing near a friend of mine that knows me very well. And she said, "Wait a minute, Meg, you do have things to say." And she told me what my things were. And so
That
then
helps.
that gave me the confidence to do it once. And when I did it once, and I felt the high of what it felt like, and I felt the energy of the audience, receiving what I was saying and feeling refreshed at the fact that I was saying this thing that they had never heard before, I realized that, oh my gosh, it completely changed my perception of myself, my self-confidence, of realizing that I actually do have value to add to this world. I do have opinions that are unique to me that nobody has ever heard before. And whenever I offer those opinions that are unique, it helps to create a more interesting world that has a greater selection of opinions, which in return expands people's worldview, which is great. So definitely pushing past the fear has been an active part of my career that I'm constantly working on. And now I'm just obsessed with it. Anytime I'm afraid of doing something, I challenge myself to just do it anyway. And I learn so much about myself in the process. And my career would not be a fraction of where it is now if I had let the fear prevent me from moving forward at all.
And then I guess the flip side of that is embracing the weird, or I think you can call it personal brand, whatever your style. You really, that's your wheelhouse now. So I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to this podcast or watching the video that maybe don't know their personal style, or they're afraid to do that thing that just feels out of the norm. So to me, that's where the fun is when it might not work. That's what brings tension to your life and makes it interesting. Or when it's weird, that's what makes it memorable. If it was the same as everything else, we don't need to remember it. Right. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, when we're talking about personal brand, I just mean how you are presenting who you are publicly. So that is, should be the same as how you're presenting yourself privately. But a lot of us are really, we don't like ourselves, and it's very hard to figure out who we are. And we're not okay with presenting ourselves as we are privately. So how are we supposed to do that publicly? So you got to fix yourself internally first. You have to get to a point where you feel safe and excited and confident with who you are within yourself and within your private spaces first. And that is the world's hardest task. Most people, go their whole lives without being able to do that. So if you even get a fraction of the way here, you're doing great. So what I like to say is to just gather the information about what makes you who you are and try and figure out how you can live that out loud as loudly as possible. So a lot of us, we're taught when we're kids, and this is not our fault at all that we are this way, that we're supposed to conform, we're supposed to be the same as one another. And anytime anybody's anywhere different from each other, they get attention, you get called out, you get made fun of, that kind of thing. So we're taught very early on to suppress the parts of ourselves that make us different. And as kids, normally we dabble in expressing those things. If we have niche interests or like weird traits of our personality, we dabble with expressing them, and then usually we get made fun of. So we learn very early on to suppress that. So now you're probably an adult, or luckily if you're a kid and you're listening to this, this would be great. You're in the position where that stuff really does not matter. Usually if somebody makes fun of you for being different, it's a problem with them and not you at all. So what I encourage you to do is find that information. A lot of it is figuring out what makes your personality who you are. What are the cornerstone traits that make you you? What are the interests, those niche things that you've been really interested and excited about your whole life? So what were the things that you were really into when you were a kid that seemed kind of unusual and unique to you that you are still interested in today? Those are the magical things, I think, that really help us to create a visual style that we can latch onto. So for me, when I was a kid, when I was in middle school, I did like comedy pantomime, for example. That was very, very specific. Not many children were into comedy pantomime. Like mimes are not cool. And I was really into like clowns and circuses and people who would use comedy silently, like Mr. Bean, for example, really into all of that. And that never went away. I've always been
Thanks,
really
Grandma Lynn.
Yeah, exactly. So I've always really been interested in that. And so for me, creating a personal style, whether it's the way that I dress, the way I decorate my home, I'm a designer. So the design style that I work in, I bring a lot of those visual cues into the design work that I do. There's a very specific circus color palette we all know. Mimes use a lot of black and white. So I make sure that I take that information, I blend it into the environment I live in, the way that I dress. I dress in a lot of black and white with bright pops of circus colors. And so I just try to bring in everything that makes me who I am into the work that I make, but also the way that I present myself publicly and privately, because it really truly is capitalizing on what makes me who I am. So it's a very complicated equation, and it's hard to try and tap into what makes you you, but it's a very long and steady process. So as long as you can start by list making, gathering this information about your personality traits, your skills, those lifelong points of inspiration or interests you've had. It's just start gathering that information so you can start figuring out how you can celebrate those things and push those things forward.
I love that. And you said something that triggered in my mind. I read in a book recently that life, when it's well lived, is sort of like a sine curve, like a wave on a EEG machine, right? Yeah, in the hospital when you're plugged up and you see the heartbeat and it's like boom, 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 boom. And you got these peaks and valleys. And sure, we all want a lot of peaks experiences, but what happens is when we try to experiment and we wiggle a little bit and we go a little high, then people go, no, no, you shouldn't do that. And you got to lower back down. Or we try not to let ourselves get too low and too sad. So we pull that back together. But if you flatten out this curve, that's when you flatline. That's when you're dead, whether you're burned out or bored or you're actually just, out of life because there's nothing interesting. And I think what I'm hearing you say is we need to start varying a little bit more. We need to get more comfortable with highs and lows and with expressing more of the edges, because that's what makes it interesting and that variableness that keeps life fun.
Exactly. I think hopefully the goal for every human is to just feel fulfilled in their life. When you're on your deathbed or whatever and you're looking back to your life, to just say I had a wonderful life where I felt safe and excited to be myself and I felt fulfilled. That should hopefully be the goal for everyone. And that comes from such a place of love and excitement and positivity. So if we can start to work towards that, all we have to do to begin is to just start to embrace ourselves and like ourselves for what makes us different from other people. And the larger work that can be done with this is that whenever you are yourself, privately and publicly, it's exciting for other people to see. Because whenever, more of us are loudly ourselves, loudly our unique, different, weird selves that are different from one another, it encourages other people to do the same. So it's a bigger work that's serving a much greater purpose than just your own fulfillment. It's actually helping to change the world and change perception on how people should behave, because we're also unique and interesting and different, even though we grow up in maybe similar lives. We're all unique. So if we can just push that forward, it actually encourages and promotes doing that for other people too.
Well, I love that. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with Playful Humans. So, join the community, spread the message, whatever. That's my goal with this is if I can be more playful, hopefully I can encourage other people to as well. And I can be the first one to take that risk. I can be the one to stick my head out there and then say, follow me. Look, I'm not getting hit. Nobody's stopping me. And I think I've seen you do that with your career too. It's like, look, I can have a lot of fun out here and there's no rules. There's nobody saying, no, you have to get a real job and be boring and work in a gray office. Like I can do this and other people can too, which is really cool. And it brings me to my next question for you, which is, I've seen you play in a lot of different ways that most people don't. So, some people play with fashion and some people play with their design or career or house or vacations, but you seem to be able to do it in multiple places where other people don't. So can you talk a little bit about how you express yourself in all areas of life, not just in your work or your art, but in your downtime, in your fashion, your home? That's a lot of things that people don't think about.
It is a lot of things. And, I started this journey I'm self-employed. So I've had to be very creative with how I make money. And in order to be successful and be able to pay your bills as a self-employed person, you got to get really creative with how that money comes in. So I started this journey with trying to figure out how I could utilize and capitalize on my personality in order to basically get paid to offer all of the unique things that I have to offer the world. So in doing that, it's been a wonderful journey of trying to basically figure out how I can get paid for everything that interests me the most and make money off of it, which sounds exhausting, but it's extremely fulfilling because I'm basically just getting to do the things that make me feel the best all the time, every day for work. And it's great. So once I, felt like that was going so well and holy crap, I can't believe I hadn't been doing this the whole time. I got excited to try and explore that through all avenues of my life everywhere. So that just means how can I break past, unlearn a lot of the things I had been taught about conforming and following trends and just doing what everybody else is doing and do what feels the best to me everywhere throughout my life. So that meant translating my interior over to being something that is more fulfilling and reflective of what is energizing to me, not necessarily what's following trends, which has been really fascinating and really interesting. So now I, paint on my walls what I want to have on my walls that makes me feel good. I fill my spaces with wacky things that maybe I owned when I was a kid or that I lost over time. I find it on eBay, get it back. I fill my spaces with the things that inspire me. I have a whole clown themed room now, because it's just energizing and unique to me. And so now I found that in doing that with my wardrobe as well, translating that over, it takes a longer time to find the things that are more fulfilling to me, but it's cheaper overall in the long run. And you're not buying things according to trends because you know what trends do to us. They make us eventually feel dissatisfied with everything we own. So we constantly
Right.
have to reinvent ourselves. And that's playing on your own self insecurity, right? Because we're so used to feeling bad about ourselves. So we feel like we need to buy more stuff in order to feel better about ourselves. That's what capitalism has taught us. And so what I've learned is that if I fill my space with things lifelong that have been inspiring and encouraging to me, then it makes me feel better about myself, but it keeps me from constantly having to feel like I need to reinvent myself. Because as long as I stay in tune with those things that have always been true about me my whole life, the likelihood of it remaining true about me the rest of my life is high. So it's not constantly ebbing
Hmm.
and flowing with trend based information of where the world is turning. And that really helps me too. So now I'm just so into translating my unique self to everything I do. So literally everything, even just the act of doing my taxes. I feel like, okay, this is a task I truly do not enjoy because it is not fun to me. How do I make it feel like a me experience? How do I make it feel good and exciting and energizing to me? So I'll like turn a movie on, turn on one of my favorite movies. Maybe I'll put on Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'll put that on silent, and then I'll play a playlist that's really exciting and energizing to me. Maybe I'll like light my favorite candle. Maybe I'll make myself a tax themed cocktail, and then I'll just like have a tax party. And so I get so I get
What's a
so
tax themes cocktail?
that's a great question. So this is something I'm very into. Anytime um, you don't have to do this with alcohol. I do not want to promote just having alcohol for everything you do. But what helps me is themes. I love thematic environments, so I try to create a thematic environment. So the tax themed cocktail doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with taxes, but I'll give it a name. And if there's
Okay.
anything specific, if there's anything specific to taxes that I could offer in there, like, is there a way that I can translate shredded paper into a garnish? I don't know, but I'll try for the tax themed cocktail. So I
Interesting.
like to basically create
I
experiences.
think in the tax themes cocktail, you have to give 30% of it to somebody
Yeah.
else.
I'll just mail 30% of it into the IRS.
With your taxes, just a shot.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yes. So basically, I'm just so
Oh,
obsessed with translating who I am into every aspect of my life. And that feels so fulfilling to me. And it feels just so great to have gotten to this place where I can create a holistic life and career where I'm just being me.
I love it. And outside of this podcast, clearly, what's the most fun you have ever had?
Outside of this podcast. Thanks. That's hard. It's hard to think. What's the most fun
That
I've
is tough.
ever had. So there was a particular moment where I felt like I had stumbled upon something that felt really important to me that I wanted to continue doing the rest of my life. And it was the first time that I took a vacation by myself. So I
Wow.
love traveling by myself. And the first time I ever did it, I was in Palm Springs. I was speaking at a conference in LA and decided to take a long weekend in Palm Springs by myself. And it was the first time I had just taken a vacation completely alone. And normally that would have scared me. What do you do with by yourself? Like eating alone is awkward. What are people thinking? That kind of thing. But when I was on this particular vacation alone, I realized that I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, because there was nobody else's feelings I had to cater to. So I did exactly that. I went to restaurants alone. I ordered whatever I wanted and as much of whatever it was. And I, upgraded myself to a nicer room that had an outdoor fireplace. I made s'mores. I even dropped a flaming marshmallow on my leg and now I have a huge scar. And it's just a wonderful memory. It's a a
To remember
physical
it by.
scrapbook of that time on my body forever. And I learned really just to be content with myself, to go through experiences that were a little bit uncomfortable and only have myself to go through them with. And I learned the magic of traveling solo during that time. So I will categorize that time as the most fun I've ever had.
That is awesome. And then, is there anything on your fun bucket list that you still want to do?
Ooh, fun bucket list. Yes.
You
So
could also combine those into an interesting word, which I've also heard people do, which is great.
I really, because I like experiences so much, I've very similarly to you. I think we share this trait in common. I really want to try and create an experience for other people that's very fun, that combines all of the things that I'm interested in into an IRL experience. I don't know what that means yet. It's so ambiguous to me at this point.
Have you
But
ever
I
been to
know
Meow Wolf in Arizona?
I have not, but I want to go so bad.
I feel like that is probably like the most you place that I've ever
Yeah,
been. And it's when
absolutely.
I went there, I was like, wow, this is the most creative thing I've ever been to. That, yeah, I think I would love to create something like that. It was like a real life, Pee Wee's Playhouse or something that you're like, wow, you can just walk through. So
Yes.
that's awesome. I love that. All right, now this wouldn't be a playfulness podcast without playing a game, but I found you can't force anybody to have fun. So if you play the game, I will give your podcast special promotion inside of the Playful Humans Clubhouse online. If you don't, I'll still promote it and do the normal social media thing. It's okay. You can say no. But would you like to get weird or would you like to walk away?
Wow. Wow. Love to get weird. Let's do that one.
All right, here's the prize wheel. We'll see you have 10 games to choose from. You got the Whisper Challenge. The Whisper Challenge I have never played before on a podcast, so the video version is going to be a lot more fun. You might want to go to YouTube and search for Playful Humans to watch Meg and I play this game. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting in silence here. I'll try and cut some of it out. But Whisper Challenge is we mute our microphones. We're recording on Zoom. All of us have had this experience where the person says something on mute, but this time we have to guess what you say. So we'll each try one. I've thought of a phrase. So I'm going to mute myself, say
Okay.
the phrase, and then you try and guess what I said. Ready?
I'm
Here we
ready.
go. All right. What'd you hear?
I heard the basketball was holier than wealth.
Oh, close. You got one word right. So we'd have to do the math. There might be two, but I was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So I think you got the and holy. You get 2 points
Hey.
for that. And then now it's your turn to mute yourself and say something for me.
Okay.
I just ate a bologna sandwich with Rihanna.
No, it was a very similar theme, but you got 0 words correct.
Oh no, what was it?
It was the chili gave me explosive diarrhea.
Oh,
Rihanna
diarrhea and
diarrhea.
Rihanna rhymes. Yeah, that half a point. All right, 2 to point 5 means you win. Congratulations.
Woo!
Meg, thanks for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And it was fun hanging out with you again today. You can find Meg Lewis at megalewis.com. Lots of fun things. Check out our Sit There and Do Nothing podcast on YouTube as well when you go over to watch our video version of this. And you can subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, suggest a guest. If you know a funny comedian, person, actor, somebody that should be on the show, let me know. And don't forget to take that free online quiz, the Playfulness Quiz, at playfulhumans.com/quiz. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
Bye.